That's why I was shocked. I went everywhere my mind knew to go, and everything kept turning up. No, I don't think she's using drugs. No, I don't think she's selling. Everything kept turning up negative. If I had had that in my things to look for, I would have found it. So I was shocked that that could happen to a family like mine.
I heard this, and it's really burning me up a little bit, that 30% of children that are getting trafficked come from a family member. Mom, dad, cousin, aunt, uncle.
For 2011, we had 131 victims of sex trafficking, and those are all victims that are under 18. A part of that number, 74% of those 131 victims are kids from the state of Nevada.
The amount of trafficked girls here on any given weekend that's a busy convention weekend is anywhere from 5 to 15,000 at any given time. And the part of the country that they come from or part of the world they come from is from everywhere.
I would say anywhere from 5,000 to 6,000 throughout this entire city. That's not counting the ranches. And prostitution can be on other levels. I found out prostitution was even in some of the positions, executive positions.
Unfortunately, come here for that. It's a byproduct of our city. Makes it the hot spot in the United States for that.
It's not geared as, immorality or taboo or consequences. It's advertised and seen to be like this glamorous, normal thing.
A lot of it has to do with the way we promote Las Vegas. It just is. This is considered Sin City. So what you have is people will come here from other states and other countries for one reason and one reason only. It's not for the beautiful scenery here. It's for sex. It's for parties. It's for alcohol. It's for drugs. It's for all those things.
Obviously, I believe that we are a hub, and nationally we're very, very high on the list. But the very large cities, New York, Los Angeles, Chicago, Miami, they all have the same problems. Las Vegas's problem is very seasonal or cyclical because of the conventions and the trade shows that come in.
In Las Vegas, people are really struggling with how to be honest about the downside to what it is that we're selling.
We have to get people really understanding in our culture here in Vegas, in our society here in Vegas, that are not educated about trafficking, to understand what's going on.
Again, remember we were talking about the source and the root. We have to go to the root and change from inside out. It's gonna take time.
Pretty young girl, she couldn't have been 12, 13 years old. She runs up to my car and she starts banging on the window of my car, screaming, "Help me." And, and so we brought her into the church and she sat down and didn't say a word for over 2 hours. And we just couldn't get anything out of her. And so finally, after about 2 hours, she just told her she was hungry and that if anything, she wanted McDonald's. So we went to McDonald's and got her something to eat, and we put together some food, and the next thing you know, she just wanted to go home to Daddy. And she wanted us to take her home to her daddy. And So we were like, okay, didn't know really again what to do. So we took her home and got her some food, but she wanted to come back to church on Sunday. Now this was like on a Friday. So we took her to her apartment where her daddy was and dropped her off and said we would be back on Sunday morning, which was only, 24 hours later. And when we went back to pick her up for church, same guy, same complex, was, we don't know who you're talking about. There was no girl that lives here. Who you're describing is never lived here. Get off our property immediately. And it was just like, dear Lord, what did we do? What just happened here?
Unfortunately, I'm coming to find out that these girls are targets. They have, in America, the ideal picture or ideal girl to recruit is somebody with very low self-esteem. How they've come about that are different ways, and my daughter had very low self-esteem. We believe in hindsight that he got her name from an old boyfriend of hers because he was abusive to her. We're thinking that maybe he was trying to put her out on the street and it didn't quite happen. But he groomed her like a child abuser would groom a child. He didn't, start dating her and put her out right away. He groomed her, let her believe that he was the only one she could depend on. He was the only one who loved her. He was the only one who would take care of her. Once that set in, then he turned the tables on, okay, now you have to do this. We need money. You have to do this for us. And basically she went out under the guise of she was doing it for them. But basically he tricked her.
And her boyfriend at the time, he was actually a pimp, wasn't demanding that she give him all the money. Basically, he let her spend what she wanted, and I watched him do this, and I thought, maybe pimps aren't what people are portraying them to be. He never hit her, he never yelled at her, he didn't try to really control her, so to speak. But see, I didn't know what a real pimp was, because this man was actually making him believe that he was a nice guy. It was the grooming period. He didn't take control of her right away.
Boyfriends or pimps. And as to quantify it, their suffering in a scientific terms would be more difficult, but if I were to put it in the most simple human terms, they want to be loved and taken care of. And that's the promise that many of these pimps offer the girls. And then it turns into this nightmare, and once they realize, they feel helpless and it's too late, and you have a loyalty to your perpetrator after a while.
Pimp may be so smooth talking and make it sound so glamorous. And the money, you know what I'm saying? A lot of young girls want money, so it's very exposable in the schools and everything, because you even got probably young guys pimping, so it's very easy to get caught up.
They have a gift. And some of them say, even at a young age, I've had psychiatrists tell me some of them have this gift. It's at a PhD level to be able to instinctually find those who are vulnerable and be able to prey on that pretty easily. Typical pimp looks like a typical person. I mean, there's no stereotype as to what a pimp is. And again, that's why I think the stereotypes have become so cartoonish and done harm to the cause.
Was I a slave? Absolutely. I was a sex trafficked slave. When I look back, that's what I think now. But while I was in it, you couldn't tell me that. I chose, according to me, I chose to be with him because I loved him.
In average teenage girl in America, I'm hearing this scenario of a young girl who has low self-esteem, who has had sexual experiences either through rape, through abuse, through just early sexual experiences. The pimps use that. Hey, you've done it already. Why don't you just come to the party? And I got a friend who wants to have sex with you, and he's gonna give me $20 if you do. So the girl does that one night at a party. doesn't sound like prostitution yet. It just sounds like, we're going to go have fun. Then the next party might have 5 boys who are going to give this boy $50 to do this. You're doing it already. Why don't you go downtown and try it? Let's see if we can get some more money. That's how some of these girls, middle-class girls in high schools, are falling into it. It's not just automatically going down to the strip. It's servicing boys out at parties, servicing a few more. You're doing it already. Why don't you just do this? And then all of a sudden they find themselves out, on the strip doing real tricks.
This is a crime that's very well thought out and calculated. They planned this crime. And what makes a man want to destroy the heart and soul of another human being? I have no idea, and so it's an enigma to me. It's a mystery.
I got the beating of my life. Brought me out to the back of the porch of my girlfriend's house and shoved my face in dog feces. Told me that this is Pimpin' B. This is what you're here for. I'm running the show. From now on, you have to give me every dime. I am not who you think I am. I'm your daddy, I'm your pimp, and this is what it's going to be, and we're going to get other girls. And completely in shock, like, are you kidding me?
The girl was new to a high school, and she was a freshman, and she made one friend. Her friend said, hey, my uncle owns a cleaning business. Would you like to make extra money a night? She said, yeah, but my dad has to meet your uncle. And so they met. The dad said, oh yeah, this is great. The uncle seems legit, who happens to be the pimp. And they're like, yes, you can work, a couple nights a week or whatever. First night they picked her up, they took her to a warehouse, gang raped her by 6 guys and videotaped it, and said, now you work for us. And if you don't, then we're going to show this video to your mom and dad. And they're going to be horrified, and they're not going to love you anymore. And that's how she was pulled out of it. So, I mean, it can happen. Of course it can happen. The dad did everything right. I need to meet this person. But they're so slick. The pimps and recruiters are so slick that they'll play every game.
Flashing very significant signs of wealth, whether it be through the vehicles that they're driving, designer clothes, jewelry, things that in a troubled youth's eyes might be very appealing and might symbolize success. Shopping malls, bus stations, anywhere that they can make a connection with somebody is where they're going to look for victims.
I do know that when my daughter was taken off the street and we were out together at the mall, at the movies, at different places, every day she would say, Mom, that's a pimp, that's a pimp, that's a pimp. I mean, multiple times in a 2 or 3 hour outing, she could spot them that easily, and that many of them that the general public is unaware of. That these guys hanging around, or these guys dressing a certain way, or these guys acting a certain way are actually identifiable as pimps, and we need to arm the public with that information. And of course law enforcement knows it, but if my daughter could do that so easily, that we have to get that kind of information out to people.
Many times in our society you'll see movies where the pimps go to bus stations and things like that and look for runaways. And that's true. You can go to the bus station here in Las Vegas and sit there all day, and you can tell the victims, potential victims, getting off the buses. And if you walk around and just look at the area, you'll be able to tell the pimps. And they will latch on to these young women or these girls very, very quickly. And it's a segment of our society that not enough is known, at least to the general public. Law enforcement has a lot of intelligence, but we need to open up the windows and turn on some lights and let the rest of society see how evil the situation is. It has to be a multi-tier attack on this. Just to do one thing will not be enough, because they'll adapt. So it has to be, all of us have to be involved. Not just one single force, but all of us as a community and as a society in general have got to fight this situation.
Because if we're not unified in this issue, we're going to lose this battle. There's no way we can win it if we become a one army band, just where it's just one person doing this, one person doing that. But if we all communicate, we all work together, and we resolve a way to help each girl, because each girl's needs are not met by one org. There's something some part the government can do, some part the school can do for education, there's some part the churches can do, there's some part the nonprofits can do, there's some part grants can do that can help these women become whole again. And we all need each other. We're a tight-knit community more than we even think.
A lot of these men, in my opinion, count on the general public having no idea that this is going on. They count on our ignorance. And then once we find out, they count on our denial of it couldn't happen to my family. And once that didn't happen, they count on our inaction, that we won't take action against them. And I want to arm the general public with information that they can't be ignorant to this problem anymore.
Every culture, socioeconomic background is at risk. But the reason they're at risk is, again, because of those self-esteem issues. I mean, we can really, in a strong way, make an impact by strengthening our families, and as fathers, showing that extra love that our daughters need, because pimps rely on vulnerability to exploit.
In culture today, in the media especially, they promote that pimping is awesome, that it's glamorous, that I'm a pimp, I pimp this, I pimp that. And they've taken this word that is so cruel, that is so demeaning towards women and abusive and emotionally jarring and disruptive to society, and they've made it normal. And because they've desensitized this word to the general public, it's not a bad word anymore. It's cool. And I think that the more society accepts that word, the more desensitized to women being trafficked we're going to actually be.
They don't think that it can ever happen to them. Yet I have personal friends who have had children that have been trafficked. And they never thought it could happen to them because they didn't know what to look for. The warning signs are always there. They're always there. It's just, are we actually looking for it or not?
It could be anybody. It can be a young girl as young as 12 or 13. It could be a woman who is in her 20s. And unfortunately, they could be from any socioeconomic background. They could be from any ethnic background.
I use the term shock and awe because people are just like amazed that this is something that our community or any community in America is dealing with. So I think when they have that moment of awe or shock, whatever hits them first, they must ask themselves, how does this impact my life, my family, my friends? And raising that level of awareness is really important so that we can see the signs long before we see the victims.
He said, no, and he just shook his head like, it can't be. I said, it can get to anybody's family. That's exactly. He thought, since my husband was a supervisor in the FBI, since, my husband's out giving briefings on security, how could it have gotten into their family? It can get into any family.
The general process for a woman or a girl to get trafficked is unique in every situation, but scenarios kind of go like this. With me, media really enticed me to want to be like the TV people, want to be like the Glamour magazine and the music videos that I was watching.
There's a real serious vulnerability here. In terms of trafficking, I think most parents are clueless, and I think that many parents, I won't make a blanket statement, many parents are not cognizant of the role of social media in making these connections with young people.
What children's, given the media's focus, what children's attention is being directed towards with the internet isn't as positive and resiliency reinforcing and self-esteem promoting as it could be. And it comes from a fear-based consciousness, and you have to fit in and you have to be this way and do this and do that, and this algorithm of a capitalistic sexual hypersexualization as we would look at it.
There's also the younger generation, which can be trafficked because they come from a broken home or a home that they're not happy with. I wasn't happy with my home. So any type of women or girls like that, they gravitate towards anyone that gives them attention.
Many times parents do not have any idea that their child has been sexually abused by someone in the family or outside the family. Children will not come with that information because they think it's their fault. So that piece for parents makes them vulnerable too, that they don't know this stuff happened to their child. And so if the child becomes involved in some sort of promiscuous activities that they might, again, not be aware of, they don't know.
We have a great education system. We teach kids about history, we teach kids about math, but do we teach them about love and interpersonal connection? Do we teach them about the importance and value of compassion? So I think that love is the strongest education, granted that, and the family is the most important education, and the family base is the most important education.
If the kids aren't informed in school, they'll get informed from their friends or the internet. If they're not informed from their parents, they'll figure out a way to get informed for sex. And I think if parents were ahead of the game and they were informed before their children reach a certain age of viewing on the internet, they'll be ahead of the game and they can tell their kids what sex really is, what a godly relationship looks like, what is normal for a teenager when she dates a guy, or vice versa. What is abnormal? What is sexual abuse? What is an inappropriate pass made at school? What kissing is and what it leads into? If I would have known these things from my parents, I think my life would have turned out a lot different.
I'll tell parents, educate yourself. Educate yourself about the issue, because you think that this cannot happen to you. That's not true. That can happen to anybody. Any child is a potential victim. So educate yourself that you can educate your kids. Get involved in their lives. So you better be there, because they're gonna test you. They're gonna push you away. The way I do is, no matter how many times they fail, I'm always there to help them stand up. Listening to them is very important too. It's part of the education. Be active listener, and then sharing and collaborating. And children are like photocopy machines. What they see is what they do. They don't do what you tell them to do. They do what they see you do. You have to control what your kid watch, what type of videos, what type of movies, what type of video games, because they kids and they are curious, and that's great. That's part of being a child. That's how we learn. We are curious, and we should never cut that curiosity. But our responsibility as adults that are responsible is to direct that curiosity to things that are healthy and positive. I don't think anything about them. I think that talks about us, actually, because the adults are the ones who are putting that message out there.
We can't. Shame on us. Shame on all of us. Because I think, again, going back more in our faith, all of our faiths individually, that we will be judged very harshly by our Creator if we do not something about this. And I think we'll be judged even harsher by the victims as they grow older, and will ask us as a society, why did you not help us? Why did you not come forward? And I think when we die and go before God Almighty, He's going to ask us a few questions. And one, what are the good things you've done? And He will have to explain. He'll have the answers already, but we'll have to explain. And I think He'll want to say, well, those, if you didn't succeed, what did you do? And He's going to want to hear us tell Him and that we kept on trying. We didn't stop. We may not win every battle. We don't. We're finite beings, but we can't stop. And I think our Creator wants us to keep fighting. He's trying to tell us that we've got to take care of our own. We have particularly youngsters.
I think that promoting the family dynamic as one of the core educational components and most important piece in the child's life, you know, the love and support is huge, and thus everything seems to follow. Healthy family, well, they want the best for their child, and they encourage the schooling, and they get involved in the school, and they're involved with the child and the activities, and it seems like everything else ensues. So the family is, again, core. Healthy family, loving, healthy families. How can we support our families and keep them stable and safe and sound and healthy? Healthy families equals healthy communities.
You know, somebody watching this documentary, that could be somebody's daughter. You know, there could be a father watching this right now saying, that's not going to happen to my daughter. And to have those voices shout loud enough and strong enough to say, these are our daughters and these are our sons, and this is not going to happen in my city.
How are we going to end this? The only way I think we can end this or any human suffering is by acting from a place of love, of pure love, you know, of unconditional love. Because if we really act, if any time we commit an act from the place of unconditional love, then it won't be no harm, because I'm acting from that place of pure love. I'm not gonna do nothing that is gonna harm you, because I understand that I love you, and my role is to protect you. That's the only way I think we can end any human suffering, you know. And it's not that difficult. We can do it. We just have to do it and stop trying. And we leave our personal interest outside the door, because this is about protecting our children. This is not about us. This is about them. So we have to come together, and it's gonna take time, and we have to have patience and don't give up.
And you know, now it's your choice. You need to care, because that girl could get murdered that night. That girl could get sold to another country and never be seen ever again. And what if you were her mother? What if you were her grandma? What if you were her dad? What if she was your daughter? Wouldn't you want her to be saved too? We have to care.
For those that are listening to this, I hope they appreciated some of the comments and questions and answers. But in the bottom line, they are going to, after they view this interview, they're going to have to turn around and decide whether they want to be involved. I hope the answer is yes.